What's happening, Sean?
So, first of all, guys, welcome back. And I was asked to do a video explaining the conflict in Ukraine, and I thought it'd be fitting to do it now, as you know, there's just been a retreat from Avdiivka. Looks like the Ukrainians are on the back foot at the moment. So I thought I'd put it to you guys. Why this happened. There was an interview a couple of days ago by Tucker Carlson where he interviewed Vladimir Putin, and Putin went on a big talk about the history of Ukraine. A couple of things that he missed out of that. Now, first of all, I'm not going to go back to the 16th century like Vladimir did, but what I will say is I'll go back in time to 1930. And something in Ukraine happened called Holodnymer. Now, this was basically when Joseph Stalin starved out 10 million Ukrainians. Now, that's the high-end estimate, but, you can look online and you can search that for the actual figures. So when people, are trying to understand the concept of what is it between the Ukrainians and the Russians, 1930 was not that long ago, it was like a generation, maybe 2 generations ago. So there's still a lot of hostilities in there, and that's where potentially, it could stem from. There's a lot of other things that have happened recently in that regards, but I think that's one of the main reasons and one of the main things that Vladimir Putin totally missed off is almost 30-minute rant on the history of Ukraine. So we've got to keep that in context as we look at what's happening today. So let's fast forward a little bit to 2013 when there was the Maidan revolution. There's a lot of people, a lot of these, especially people on the left, saying it was a coup, it was a US-sponsored coup. It wasn't. You had people wanting to be more European. They didn't want the levels of corruption in their country that they have in Russia. And, Viktor Yanukovych, he was an absolute, he was one of Putin's lapdogs. And what happened is there was an exit poll on the polls, on one of the votes, and people had voted wildly against Yanukovych, but the results came out and it just wasn't the case. So that's really what started the Euromaidan, or the Ukrainian Revolution in 2013. After that, there was the annexation of Crimea. There was the shooting down of the Malaysian Airways aircraft. And I think that Billingcat did a great article on what actually happened with the shooting down of MH17. And when you look at the evidence that's put forward, I don't think anyone can, I don't think anyone's in any doubt where that Buk missile system came from. It's all there, it's out, it's open source material, and it's not really argued. So let's move forwards again to 2022 when the main Russian invasion came. This thing was absolutely, first of all, from the Russian side, it was terribly mounted. It was, the Ukrainians did a great job in fighting them off. And let's not forget, the Russians were saying they were not going to invade for such a long time. No, we're not going to invade. No, we're not going to invade. No, we're not going to invade. And then they invaded. So when Tucker Carlson sits down and he asks Vladimir Putin, do you want to invade Poland? Would you invade any other countries? And he says, no. We can't really take that as gospel. We can't really take that as the truth. When we look back through history, it's just covered in lies and lies and deceit. And there's a lot of people who think Vladimir Putin's such a, he's a cool guy, he's a great guy, he knows all about history. Yes, he may know a lot about history, he may know a lot about Russian history, but would you want to live in Russia? Look what's happened recently with this, the election that's coming up. One of his main opponents was put in prison, and now he's died. Now, you can put 2 and 2 together and come up with whatever conclusions that you want, but that is the reality. And this has hardly been reported in Russia. Can you imagine if you lived in Russia and that was your system? It kind of just takes all hope out of anything, and it really does feed in desperation. So, you know, when we ask, why is this war happening? Why is this conflict? You know, and there's people saying, oh, it's because of NATO expansion. No, it's by that logic, by the NATO expansion logic, why is there not being an attack in Finland? Finland is a NATO country. Finland has a border with Russia. Why is there no tanks rolling over in Finland? Why is Russia not attacking Finland? So, you know, the arguments don't stand up. The real reason is Putin wants Ukraine. It's a beautiful country. It's got a beautiful capital city, Kiev. And that's the reality. He wants to restore the old former Soviet Union. Let's not forget, in the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis, Vladimir Putin was watching this as a young KGB agent. You know, and people say that at the end of the Cold War, at the end of the Cuban Missile Crisis, you know, they're saying that, you know, the Russians, they had world peace, they're peaceful people. But it was at the end of then the fall of the Soviet Union, and Vladimir Putin, he had to watch this, and it was embarrassing for him. So that's the reason why he wants to restore the old Soviet Union. Guys, I'm sorry for giving you a kind of a solemn speech and a little critique on these things, but I've been asked to do it, and I think it's right to do it now as we move forwards. Okay, so that's really, you know, my opinion, and with some facts in there of what happened to Ukraine and what's been happening. What we can see happening in the future is what I think is going to happen, and I've just looked on the interactive map. The Belarusians they're amassing military forces now in Belarus, but just above just above Zhytomyr. I think there's a really high risk at the moment that the Belarusians could try and punch down and make a land grab into Zhytomyr. This is going to block east and west travel and the main supply route into Kiev. If this happens, it's going to be absolutely catastrophic. And what you would see is this happening just before another push by the Russians, because that would basically put a stranglehold around Kiev. There'd be no more goods coming in. It'd be very hard to evacuate people, and it looks like you could cut the country in half if that happens. So guys, that's what I think. Tell me what you think, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, guys, okay? We're on a few platforms now, so make sure you find us and show us your support. Thank you.